I've always been a reflective teacher. It seems I spend a lot of time reflecting, about as much as I do planning. And that's probably not because I'm a perfectionist. Lord knows I'm not. I'm okay with things falling short. I just want to make sure I get through. I want to make sure I did the right thing. Even if what I did wasn't successful, if it was the right thing, then I'm happy with it. I mean, even now, my students have just left not 3 minutes ago, and I can't help but wonder if what I did today was the right thing to do. Did I add to the success of a student? And that is what haunts me. That is what I dwell on. At the beginning of the day, how am I going to do that? At the end of the day, if I was successful at that. For many years now, I've been at this game for 16, 17 years. And I have spent many days reading what other people have written, listening to what other people have to say, watching videos of what people have done. And sometimes it applies, sometimes it doesn't. And here in this last few days of school, the school year, the 2021, 2022 school year, I am here my last days at Northside High School in Fort Worth because I have been honored and blessed to be offered a position as assistant principal at another school in another district. And again, I'm looking at what other assistant principals have said, what other assistant principals have done their first years to their last years. And while there are some videos online that are super helpful, there's also a few that are not so helpful. But either the ones that are super helpful, the ones that everybody seems to gravitate towards, it's not always 100% applicable. You have to pull it apart and you have to examine it and say, how does this apply to me? Because at the end of the day, that's who you're responsible for, is you. And listening to all these other people's stories, that whether they're either completely off track with mine or they're somewhat on track with mine, whatever, I'm reminded of Chinua Achebe, who says, if you don't like my story, write your own. And that's why I started this. That's why this here for the last 4 minutes and for the next however long I go, if this is a long-term production, great. If it's not, I'm okay with that too. Because I'm writing my story. I am reflecting and thinking about what it was like for me these last 17 years. And where am I going? How far am I going to go? And what does it mean? 10 days of school left. 10 days of school left. And I will no longer be a classroom teacher. I will then transition to the role of assistant principal. For 17 years, I've been a high school teacher, and I'll be moving to early childhood. So not only are my roles completely different, but the students are vastly different. I'm not joking. There's literally 11, 12 years between the students I have now and the students I'm going to start seeing in August. It's a 12-year difference. Plus, I'll be doing that with, I'll be working with that in a capacity that I've never worked before. I've been trained to do it. I have the degree to do it. And to a certain extent, I've kind of done it, but not full time, not with full responsibility. And I'm going to admit here, this is my reflection. And when you reflect, you have to be completely honest with yourself. I'm scared. I'm very apprehensive at this. I'm dealing with a different age group of students. The mindset of the teachers and teachers' assistants who work with these students are also different than the mindsets of those I'm working with now in a high school. And I have to adjust. I have to change. But at the same time, I can't stop being me. But the more I think about it, I'm also excited. I'm happy. I'm looking forward to it. I'm thinking this is going to be a great adventure for me. So on the one hand, I'm scared out of my gourd. What have I gotten myself into? And on the other hand, I can't wait to begin the journey. And that's the absolute dichotomy of being a teacher, of being an educator, of being in education in general. There are some things that just scare the crap out of you. Then there are other things that just excite you. And it's the same thing, the exact same thing. When I was a kid, I don't remember my first days in school. I remember kindergarten, sure. But I don't remember the first day I walked into kindergarten. I remember first grade. But I don't remember the first day I walked into first grade. But I remember the feeling I had at that school. From grades 1 through 4, I was in the same school, and I felt at home. I enjoyed going there. It was an absolute pleasure for me to go there. The lights kicked off. Grades 5 through 8, I didn't like it there. I was in a different school. I didn't feel at home there. There were, of course, parents were like, "Oh, I put you to this school because it was a better school and better this, better that, closer to home." I don't care. It wasn't me. It was never me. I didn't like it. I was in a skin that was too tight for me. And then I got to high school. And I remember the very first day I walked into my high school. I went there for a tour. And I walked in, and as soon as I walked through the door, I knew that was where I belonged. I had found my home. I found my home. And for the next 4 years, I thrived. Absolutely thrived. I had teachers that treated me like a human being, an adult, who didn't just push me aside They listened to me. They heard me out. They realized that there were some things that I didn't get like other students, that I needed to, that my way of learning had to be differentiated. Even though that wasn't a big word then, it wasn't any word then, but certain teachers learned that they had to differentiate for me. And that made a big impact, made a huge impact on me, to be treated like that, to be trusted like that. And even then, I was leaving high school and I knew I needed to be a teacher. I needed to make sure that no other student felt the way I did when I was younger, that everyone had the opportunity to feel welcomed and loved and valued when they got to high school. And eventually, I started interviewing to be a high school teacher. And I'll never forget, I went from one school to the other school to the other school, and I was so desperate to find a job. I didn't let the culture of the school permeate me. I didn't let the climate access me. I was just focused on the interview. Until finally I was given my chance to interview at this one particular school in Dallas, Oak Cliff. And I walked through the doors for my interview. I was called in for an interview, and I walked through the doors, and I knew that day. I knew that day I belonged there. I was subsequently hired and stayed there for 8 years. Loved it. Due to things that happened in one's life, I took a year sabbatical. Came back. Unfortunately, I couldn't come back to that school. My position had already been filled. And so I went to another high school. I did not feel at home. It was not where I belonged. And I knew I didn't belong there. It didn't feel like home. Nothing felt right. And so then, in the course of time, a year, I found this place. This place called me. They called me and asked me to come here. And again, I walked through the doors and I knew this was it. I knew this was where I needed to be. And I've been here for 7 years. 7, 8 years. And now things are different. I've been called by this other school. I was interviewed and I had the opportunity to spend time there and to be there and all that. And it's a different feeling. I don't feel like this place that I'm going to is necessarily home, but it feels like it could be. I've been called in and offered an opportunity to work with a principal who's willing to work for me. Not work for me, but work for me. Work with me. Teach me and train me to be a better me. In other words, I found a place that I can make my home. And that's exciting. That's very exciting. In the meantime, what you can't see is I have boxes over here, and milk crates and the like, and I have pictures up here that you can't see, and little statuettes and stuff that I need to get packing since I won't be here after 11 days. But I want to share with you. These are my feelings. And I know that I'm not alone, and I know that there are others out there who are heading on their journey and they're feeling apprehensive and they're feeling not sure. And they feel like they're making the right decision, but they're afraid to make that decision. They're afraid that even though it's the right decision, it's going to hurt. You know what? It's going to hurt. My first year of teaching hurt like you wouldn't believe. my first year of teaching here, even though I was a veteran teacher, I was new here, and that hurt. And I know this upcoming year, starting in August, it's going to hurt for me. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm scared because I know it's going to be painful. I'm scared because I know I'm going to make the wrong decisions. But I'm excited. As long as I can feel, I'm good. I can still feel. That means I still care. That means I'm still on the right track. And because I can feel, I know I'm going to grow. Because growing is painful. And as much fun as I'm going to have, it's going to hurt like hell. And I'm looking forward to it. My next conversation with myself, you if you decide to come back, I'll be looking back on some of my years in teaching and what I've learned, how I learned it, why it's important to learn it. I'm going to reflect on teachers that have influenced me, administrators who've influenced me, but most importantly, I'm going to reflect on the students who helped make me a better person. Students who helped, whether they didn't even realize it, they inspired me to be a better educator. Thank you. God bless. Be well.